Okay, guys, we're going to make this a follow-up to the first tape I made about how important it was to build people, that you're in the business and network marketing of building people, not moving product, and the old cliche of uh, people move products, products don't move the people, and it's really how big your organization is going to grow, how fast it's going to grow, how long it's going to sustain is how effective you are and what kind of system you have for making available the inspiration for people to want to learn, to grow, to read voraciously the necessary books to help them develop the right attitudes and characteristics and principles that will lead to them becoming better people, leaders, people that will attract people of the kind of nature that they're looking for and the type of characteristics they're looking for. You attract that with which you relate. Uh, you attract people on your level. So what you want to do is raise your level as big as you can so you attract those kind of people. Talk a few minutes about the most powerful personal growth system that was ever put together on the planet. It was put together in the late 60s and early 70s by worldly renowned, unarguable number one network in the world. I won't mention his name, but he built an organization of millions of people, is on every list you ever want to make about successful people in networking. He's at the top, however you measure it, by size of the organization, by the amount of income. I was fortunate enough to be there, not in the very beginning, but early on, the first meeting that I attended. And everything in this organization was measured by the number of people who come to meetings, because he learned early on, if you don't come and plug into the support system, if you don't hang around where the uh, inspiration is being provided, where the information is being provided, where you're going to reach inside and have an emotional experience that's going to cause you to make decisions and thereby grow. The only thing he ever measured as far as the size of the organization was called BITS, B-I-T-S, butts in the seats. The first meeting that I went to around 1972, there were a little over 1,000 people. There had been, I think, 75 people a year and a half before, and that had grown to a little over 1,000 people at the meeting I attended. And at that meeting, he implemented the beginnings of his system, the beginning of making available to his organization a tape. At that time, it was a tape a month. It later became tape of the week. Making available to people books. You had a warehouse where you, after the meeting, we would go to the warehouse and purchase these tapes and purchase these books. He later got into an automatic distribution system of those things called Tape of the Week, Book of the Month. But what he began to implement was a system of making available the necessary, what we call tools, basically books and tapes and meetings where people could come and learn and associate with winners and other leaders. It became very huge very quickly. The 1,000 people in the next 18 months, we had another meeting in the Coliseum in Charlotte, North Carolina, and there were 8,000 people. And he predicted that would happen within 2 years, and it did. So he grew from roughly 1,000 people to about 8,000 people attending the meeting in under 2 years, somewhere, as my memory calls, around 18 months. How that happened was not any great miracle. It was we learned to that you got to help people to grow. You've got to make available to them the necessary things for them to change their thinking, to change their attitudes. Uh, when you change your thinking, when you change your attitude, you change your life. And he understood that. He understood that people need encouragement constantly. They need recognition. I think the number one thing need by most people is to feel valuable, to feel worthy, to be recognized. He implemented an incredible recognition system for people to feel special. You ultimately can only grow as big as you see yourself. It's only as big as your self-esteem. If you can't get out of that comfort zone unless you grow the comfort zone. So you got to feel better about yourself. You got to feel like you're capable. That's why my favorite book of all times is called The Greatest Miracle by Og Mandino. That book did more for me and continues. I continue to read it today. I never get tired of reading the God Memorandum part in chapter 9. Uh, Anytime I get a little down on myself or have self-doubt, I read that book and read that particular chapter 9 over and over. It it makes me believe in myself and what my own abilities and how blessed I am to have the skills and the abilities and the wisdom and the ability to choose and the ability to think that I have. But this is what this man taught us all through a system of making available a book of the month. And they were, the first book was Magic of Thinking Big and Think and Grow Rich and Magic of Believing and all the, start all down all the books. We used all the Zig's books. We had Zig in to speak multiple times. We had all the great masterful persuaders and speakers and what's called motivators of the time in on a regular basis. We had weekly get-togethers. Generally, you had what's called an open at least twice a week. I had mine on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Every Saturday, we had a get-together, a leadership. It was a breakaway leadership. Everybody came at the beginning, and then it would break down by levels in the business. And we would cover various topics. And we sometimes would just sign a chapter of a book on one Saturday, different chapter to different people, and people would come back the following Saturday and give a book report. And then we'd all discuss what we got out of the book. It was a wonderful thing to watch people. Anytime you get people together, they grow faster than if they're alone. People feed off of each other. It multiplies. There's an old analogy from down south. I used to use contests where horses pull weights, plow horses would pull weights, and the champion horse pulled 1,100 pounds, and the second to him pulled about 1,000 pounds. So they always wondered what would happen if you put the two together. Logic said, well, they'll probably pull a couple thousand pounds. One can pull 1,000, one can pull another. Well, they put them together and they pull like 8,000 pounds of some ridiculous number, showing the power of feeding off of the mastermind principle of Think and Grow Rich, of feeding off of each other, and it grows. And that was the principle of getting together on a regular basis. The main purpose of getting together on a regular basis was to encourage each other, to be all positive, no negative allowed. We used to have a negative jar. Anytime somebody said anything negative, they put a quarter in the jar. You have to be positive. You have to talk positive. You have to think positive. You are what you think about. Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret. Allen, as a man thinketh, so he is. He had the Bible, Proverbs, it covers it all. It's a fact that we become what we think about. We become as we see ourselves. This is the key to building a large organization, is to get people to understand how powerful they really are, to understand how big they can be, understand there's no limitations on what they can become. You can be anything. You can become anything. You have a mind that has the unlimited ability to learn. You can learn anything you want to learn bad enough. You can do anything you want to do bad enough. The slogan of this organization was, you got to have a dream you're willing to fight for. And you do have to fight. You have to overcome a lot of negative. You have to overcome a lot of negative influences from other people. You have to overcome a lot of negative that comes from inside, from our upbringing and our past. And the key to building an organization is to make available to people the tools and the teaching necessary to develop the internal thought processes, and thereby the skills for building networking are pretty simple. Talk to as many people as you can talk to in a shorter period of time. I mean, the bottom line to networking is see as many people as you can in a shorter period of time and share what you believe with them. And it's important that word belief, I could get into that on a later date. You can only share effectively that of which you are passionately obsessed about. The people I watched, when I came into business, there was one millionaire, the ultimate leader himself, was the only person at the level we call millionaire status. And I watched that grow from him to 10 years later, there were over 500 people at that level in his organization. He had developed an organization in 10 years of around roughly 2 million people. And there were over 1,000 what we call millionaires in the organization, and probably tens of thousands of people who were making six-digit income and had become free and left had the opportunity or the choice to leave their workplaces if they wanted to and work from home and be free. I chose to do that after 3 years and never looked back for 40 years. So what I want to talk about and what I'm trying to say is here, if you want a big, huge, growing, sustaining networking organization, you've got to focus on helping people to believe in themselves and then believe in other people. Of course, you've got to believe in the company. You've got to believe in the product that you're marketing. But that all comes secondary to teaching people to believe in themselves. The other thing that he did, like nobody else has ever done, in my opinion, is build a sense of belonging, a sense of team, a sense of we're in this together. It's us against the world. There was a camaraderie that was probably unmatched anywhere except maybe on the battlefield. And we called it a battlefield. We called it putting on your uniform every night and going out to do battle. When we were going out, we would go out and what's called show the plan about 8 o'clock every night. And you put on your uniform. We had dark suits and ties and a red tie and a dark suit. That was our uniform. And you go out, you put that uniform on, you go out to do battle. You're going out to forge your dream. You're going out to chase your dream. You're going out to fight for and go after the thing that you're working for. And you've got to know what that is. I'll cover that on another tape when we get into the pattern, and the most important part of the pattern being the dream and the why and your cause, whatever motivates you to do the uncomfortable. Because I don't care how good the product is, I don't care how good the compensation plan is, it's still people. It's still human nature. You still have to battle fear. You still have to battle your. I had never started a conversation with a stranger in my life before coming to this business. There was an incredible process of learning how to overcome the fear and start conversations with people. No matter what you're doing in networking, you've got to involve other people, which means you have to approach other people. You have to contact other people. You have to invite them to look at a webinar or listen to a tape or listen to a presentation. I don't like the word presentation. I like the word interview. I like the word sharing an idea with people, sharing a concept, showing them a way that they can change their life. I was most successful in my approaches when I would talk to people, the Alan Pease approaches of the 5 questions. Where are you? Where do you want to be? Is this taking you where you wanted to be? If you go back 5 years, have you accomplished what you wanted to accomplish? Do you seriously want those things? Are you still serious about it? If I knew a way you could possibly still accomplish those things, would you want me to show it to you? I was never comfortable asking somebody to look at the program. I want them to ask me to show it to them. Get a little bit off topic there, which I tend to meander a lot. What I really wanted to talk about here, and what I hope I've covered well, is the fact that the system of and it's books, it's tapes, it's association with leaders, it's association with minds, it's the mastermind concept, it's getting together, encouraging and building everybody, it's studying the principles. There aren't that many. In Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill listed 12. Covey talks about the 7 habits. There aren't that many. It isn't that complex. It's really pretty simple. The 95% versus the 5% comes down to real simplicity. The 5%, for whatever reason, believe in themselves, believe they deserve, believe they can have, and they have dreams instilled in them, or they get goals, there's a picture of things that they want out of life, and they start putting their effort into figuring a way to make enough money to accomplish those things. And there's a life process in there. The 95% don't believe in themselves. They get some kind of job. They get labeled. They get to believe in this is all I'm worth. And there's a big difference between what you're worth and what the job pays. And they begin to adjust their life through a funnel, through a budget, through this is all I can afford. And they begin to settle for and adjust down. And it's basically adjusting their lifestyle down to whatever income they find themselves in. The successful people find ways to adjust their income up to where it gets them the things they want out of life. And that's one big ingredient to happiness. I see I'm running out of time here, so I'm going to close this particular part of this. This can go on for hours. But basically, I just want to encourage you to get yourself into reading and get yourself into listening. YouTube is a wonderful thing. There's audio books on there. There's Zig Ziglar. There's Les Brown. There's Jim Rohn. There's a whole list of people you need to listen to daily. You need to read daily. You need to associate with people on a regular basis that are positive, that uplift you, that are where you want to be and the kind of people you want to be. If you do that, you will have a massive organization at some point if your dream's big enough and you're willing to put forth the effort. I'm going to sign off for this one. I'm sure I'm going to make some more of these. I got this new toy here. I'm bored. It's raining and raining here in Florida. Nothing to do. I'll sit around and talk for a while. Anybody wants to listen to this and can get a use for it, great. This is Coach Joe signing off for, I think this was the second tape I made. Hope they're getting better. Talk to you later.